GCP cloud engineer, has very kindly given us his time today. He's going to give us a quick talk about Looker, tell us a little bit about what makes it different in Google's approach on analytics, and give us a demonstration of some of the features of the tool. After that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some tips and tricks on data and analytics migrations, and then I'm going to pass it over to James Ball, who's going to show you one of the tools that we use in migrations to make it a little bit easier. He's going to do a demonstration of that. So as Andreas said, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We're going to keep everyone muted just to make sure that this goes along nice and quickly. But keep your questions in the chat and we will answer them at the very end. So we've got about 5 minutes left for questions, but we'll get back to you in person on email if there's a question that we don't get a chance to go to. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Eric now. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Eric Carr, Cloud Partner Engineer from North America, dedicated to the Looker team. I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about Looker, give you an introduction to the product, talk about its key differentiators, and then walk you through a demo to show you how the product works in action. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And first, let's talk about what Looker is. In a nutshell, Looker is a modern data platform that powers internal and external use cases. It does this by powering 4 different data experiences with 3 unique architectural differences that allow Looker customers to deliver on 2 important value points, all with one Looker data platform. Let's talk about what BI tools were in what Looker calls 3 waves. The reality of the first wave of BI tools was that these tools, MicroStrategy, Cognos, etc., had great governance. They provided great standards, and they were pretty scalable. They actually helped people at the time make sense of monolithic databases and data warehouses that probably lived in a data center that were generally pretty massive, slow, and also pretty cryptic. But these first wave of BI tools didn't really allow for self-service. So people were still waiting in line to have the report writer or IT expert write the reports for them when they needed them. They were inflexible, took a lot of time to change, so that led to low agility. And like most of the databases at the time, they were pretty poor with their big data performance. A bit later on, we get the second wave. And the second wave of tools essentially solved for all of the problems that the first wave had. They put together tools like Tableau or Qlik, this self-service product, so that an analyst or a business user could come in and they could essentially design their own visualizations. They could really drop files on there, connect up to their data, and they could create beautiful visualizations quickly and self-service. It removed that bottleneck for the IT department and provided them with the agility and flexibility that they needed. But this introduced another set of problems. So all that governance and the standardization that came with the first wave was gone. These were also difficult to scale and provided or needed additional sets of servers, because most of them would extract all of the data from the database itself, or from the actual file or data source. This also led to poor big data performance. Looker tries to solve for both of these problems at once. So we call Looker the third wave of BI. And really, Looker's semantic layer provides for that governance and standardization. Its in-database architecture allows it to scale quickly. And because databases nowadays are quick and fast, faster than ever before, it provides great big data performance. It also allows users to self-serve on top of that governed, standardized model, and gives them the flexibility to get data wherever and whenever they need it. How is Looker different than other BI tools? Let's recap. Looker provides virtual data model. So what's great about virtual? Well, it means that your physical database can be accessed in a variety of different ways. That virtual semantic layer allows you to apply business rules on top of a physical structure, no matter what that structure looks like. This allows us to speed up our modeling. The Looker virtual data model is unique in the sense that it provides a text-based SQL-like language. so your developers don't have to learn something completely new. That text-based language allows the model to be super flexible, and it allows it to be Git versioned. So, and again, developers don't have to learn anything new, and they can collaborate with version control and a tool that they're already familiar with. One of the other unique features of Looker in database query. So queries run in the database, not in the BI tool. This is great because it allows us to have data at the most granular level available in our underlying data. If that transactional log data is sitting out there in Bigquery, we can get down to the actual individual row level. That allows for endless user exploration. So we don't have to access data via an aggregation and not have access to that granular data. Because queries run 100% in the database, that means that performance on big data is limited only by the database itself. With tools like Bigquery, Snowflake, Redshift, fast, performant databases that are self-optimizing, that performance is likewise really great. And because the data is stored in the database, not in the BI tool, not only does this apply real-time analytics, so we can look at data in real time and get results whenever we want them, we can as well see all of the data in any combination. So our end users can explore that in any way that they want. Now Looker does this via intelligent SQL generation from its semantic layer, which we'll take a look at in the demo itself. And Looker's not just BI, and it's not just data visualization. So because Looker provides an application development framework and a RESTful API, you can put together many different user experiences. That could be a custom application built out for a specific subject matter area, or you could consume data in a different product, in a different application, something like G Suite, Office, or Slack. You could even access Looker data from within a sheet. For example, if you're out working in G Sheets and you'd like to get real-time data, you can hook into that Looker semantic layer, and you can pull that data into your sheet, work with it right there. We provide SDKs for Java, Python, C#, R, Swift, Kotlin, and a variety of other languages. If you don't see your language here, you can always just Swagger CodeGen the SDK for that particular code base. The last thing I'll touch on for differentiators is Looker's modern security model. So Looker allows your data content and feature controls to be maintained either within that Looker security layer or within the database itself. Because Looker consumes OAuth, SAML, etc., you can have single sign-on and minimize the overhead of maintaining an additional security model as well. It's very easy to set up, manage, and to integrate. And because Looker is not extracting data and storing it in its own in-memory engine, this means that it is pretty much automatically in compliance with your security protocols, such as SOC 2 or HIPAA or PII compliance. Let's talk about the architecture. So Looker, from a high level, looks something like this. Out there at the bottom, you've got different sets of data, and everybody's got data in multiple places now. Software as a service, legacy databases, cloud databases, etc. In an ideal world, we'd like to see that consolidated somewhere. I've shown 3 databases or data sources here, BigQuery, Cloud SQL, and Cloud Spanner. But if you use different ones, you can imagine them in that place as well. The center layer is Looker. With its API first and cloud native application, it exists and integrates directly into your existing workflows. Its semantic modeling layer allows it to write SQL, send that into the database, and get a result back. That in-database architecture gives you access to that real-time data. And then at the top, you can see the 4 different data experiences that we talk about. Modern BI and analytics, what we'll see in our demo today. Integrated insights, where you embed Looker directly into a product that you already own, perhaps Salesforce or G Suite, infusing relevant data into your existing tools. You can drive a workflow with Looker, sending data downstream to, for example, turn an ad on and off based on a set of criteria. And even build out a custom application using the extension framework or API for a data tool that is really built to purposefully deliver the results that you need whenever you need them. So we'll jump over to a product demo now. I'm going to navigate out to the Google demo.looker.com instance, and I'll go ahead and authenticate. The front page looks something like this. a fully customizable experience, but in general, we'd have navigation on the left-hand side, different things that I've used or favorited in the past, as well as things that might be trending in my organization, and then a little curated sidebar. This one's for my demo team, showing me product demonstrations that are available to me, and some use cases and demo content. Here along the side, I have Explore, Develop, and Admin. And I tend to think of these as different types of users that might be in the product. So an Explore user is someone who's creating content. They're out there asking questions, creating and issuing ad hoc queries, and doing that and putting together dashboards for other users to consume. Developers make that possible through the creation of the semantic layer. They're the ones that model out the data, and they probably have a pretty deep understanding of both the business rules and the underlying physical database. Admin is a typical admin function. These are the users that are responsible for maintaining users, for assigning permissions and roles, for creating connections down to databases, and for monitoring the metadata. We also have what we call browse users, and those have access to all of these different dashboards. They're essentially viewers. So they're going to most likely come in here, pick a dashboard that they have access to, and they'll get the information that they need. So let's go ahead and start off by searching the instance for a dashboard. Let's look at dashboard about a retail company. So this is a high-level dashboard that provides metrics around clothing sales. High-level metrics at the top here: new users acquired, sale price, etc., trends year over year, orders by day and category, some demographics, geographics, and analytics. All of this information, again, is live on the database. So if I wanted to see the granular 1,042 users, these first-time purchasers, I could click into that number, and what Looker's going to do is go back out and grab me the individual user IDs, along with the number of orders that they got. All of this is created by my developer. So if I wanted to get different fields here, or have a different search or drill path, I could do that in my LookML semantic layer as well. Each of these is customizable. So I can look at things side by side, toggle them on and off, and even drill into different points on my graphs. Again, orders by day and category for that particular day is going to take the filter for that particular day, issue a query down to the database, and then get back a set of results for that day and category. I could then take that into an Explorer if I wanted to ask further questions about it, or download it if I wanted to do something with it in another tool, such as Excel or Python. Sometimes developers will put together actions based on a particular field. So Looker allows you to not only view and look at and interact with my data in real time, but it also lets me take action on it from directly within the application. So for example, if I came in here and I saw this order, it looked like it was complete, and I liked it, I might want to take it over into a brand promotion, right? So this particular person is part of a cohort that I might want to target with some sort of brand promotion. You can send them this email action. Or maybe I've seen that Ray-Bans are really doing well, and I'd like to start an AdWords campaign based upon some particular aspect of this for this particular new Wayfarer item, right? To start that AdWords campaign directly from within here. Or maybe I just want to go over and take a deeper look at what it looks like from the brand and item analytics. So let's see Ray-Ban in detail. Clicking over into this dashboard, I can see now total customers that have ordered for this particular brand, what their average order value, how many total orders they've had, and what types of things that they sell. You can also see some correlation scores and affinity analysis that lets me see, basically, from my order basket, what things are commonly purchased in conjunction with these particular Ray-Ban brands. Lots of interesting information here. Now, let's say I'd like to build this out myself. In this case, let's look at the Explorer. So I'm going to come in here and build out a quick query, just a simple one. So let's say, what's my total sales? And let me look at that by month, and then limit that just to the past 6 months. Now in the background, Looker's writing SQL. And I can see that SQL if I'm a developer and I have the access to it. But generally, my end users don't need to see this at all. All they need to do is put together that query, looking at the created month and total sale price, and then run it. It's just going to go out to the database, get some data, fetch it back, and I expect to get 6 rows here. There I go. Now I can sort it and visualize it. So let's say I sort this from earliest to latest and place it into a column. This looks nice, but I'm also going to go ahead and add a reference line so that I can see which months, easily see which months are over or above the monthly average. Now, if I like this, I could save it as a look, just a one-off report that I could come back to anytime, or drop it in to a dashboard as a tile. I could also easily share this. So because I'm really connected live to the database, sharing doesn't have to package together all of the data that made up this query. It's really as simple as copying and pasting a URL. So here, post that into an email or into a message, etc. And I give it to someone. When they drop into their browser, they get back to the exact same place. So they've got the same filters, same visualization, the same fields and row limits, and if I've selected any totals or custom filters as well. For this, let's do one last thing and save that onto a dashboard. See how easy it is to create dashboards for other users. Let's go ahead and in my folder, make a new dashboard. And we'll call this sales. I've got that dashboard created. I'll pop that open. And I can see that there's my one tile. And I can easily edit it with a GUI interface. And perhaps add another tile here. So let's add another visualization tile. And we'll do something around geo. So let's look at my user state. And I'll see how many users I have in each of those states. I'd also like to look at that based on users who have created some sort of order, made some sort of order within the past, let's say 3 months. So I'll filter that based on 3 months. I'm going to run that. Again, Looker is going to send out that SQL down to the database, get back a result set, and I'll be able to visualize that on a map. Go ahead and save that after I name it. Let's call this users by state. And then move it up here and resize it. Now, my dashboards, or each individual tile rather, have filters associated with them, but I can also add filters in the dashboard itself. These global filters, such as, for example, state, allow my users to select and run the dashboard for a particular set of information. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then, if I wanted, I could go ahead and just look at information for the state of New York. That's going to change both of my tiles, but I can select this to individually alter particular tiles on my dashboard. That way, filters can apply to individual tiles individually. So this looks good. I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And then, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and send this or schedule delivery to my email. So let's say I'd like to get this once a week, sent down to my email there as a PDF. I'll do it Monday at 6 a.m. And if I wanted to, I could set up multiple schedules here with different filters. This means that because I'm live on the database itself, that I don't have to package up all of that information. I can have a dashboard that is generally purposed and look at it in different ways. I could have, for example, a schedule once a week that looks at New York, one that looks at the entire United States, or one that looks at multiple states in different regions. We'll go ahead and save that. And next Monday morning, I'll get a nice dashboard in my email. From there, I'll be able to click right in and take a look at that. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Inovaco to talk a little bit more about their services. Thank you.
Okay, so now we understand Looker and what's great about it. Let's talk about implementation. Specifically, let's talk about how to migrate from an existing BI tool into Looker. If you know me as the president of Inovaco, Move It Analytics is actually our migration division. And why do we have a migration division? Well, a couple of years ago, we came together and we decided that there were specific enough differences between doing a net new data warehouse build and migrating an existing analytics tool into something more modern that we decided to create a separate division. That division has different people. We use different tools and we have different methodologies in order to be successful. Quick overview of our methodologies. Step number one, we need to do a very deep end-to-end analysis of your environment. We need to understand your data sources. We need to understand any ETL or transformations, how relevant they are and how complex they are. And then also your end-to-end technology stack. We use a tool, an automated tool called the BI Blueprint, which we're going to show you later on. Step number two, consolidation and simplification. So Gartner say that on average, a Fortune 500 company has a minimum of 4 BI tools in their BI environment at any one time. I actually think this is kind of low. Most of the time, companies that we talk with, they don't consider certain things to be part of their BI stack that actually are. So for example, there could be MicroStrategy reports coming from a supplier portal that you're using every day, but you don't consider to be part of your BI stack. Somewhere in the organization, there's always crystal reports in some distant division that are part of your data stack as well. What we want to do at this stage is understand everything within your environment and understand where we can bring them together and maybe consolidate them a little bit. Now, the reason we want to do this is it'll make it easier to support in the long run if you have less tools. It'll be easier to train everyone within your organization. And obviously, there are going to be cost benefits from potentially not having to pay for so many licenses. The second part of the consolidate stage is to talk to your users and understand a little bit better about what it is they're using and what it is that they're not using. So for example, we do some analysis to see whether or not there were reports that might have been built a couple of years ago for a very specific purpose. It's not needed anymore. Now, does it make sense to take that report and put it in your new environment? No, absolutely not. Same with your data sources too. Often we find that there are multiple data sources that are actually just serving one particular customer or one particular report set. What we need to do is consolidate all of them and make your environment easier to use. Third stage, build a target data model. We do this net new. Now we do this net new for a couple of different reasons. We take all of the learnings from steps 1 and step 2, and then we use that to create a net new fresh data model. And the fourth step is to migrate all of your data over into the new environment. So what kind of companies work with Move It Analytics? What do we look for in a client? Most of the time, they will have an existing BI tool and a complex environment. So for example, they'll be at the stage where their environment is getting unruly and it's becoming difficult to support. It's difficult to service their customers where they are right now. Secondly, they'll want to modernize. So they'll have questions or requests for functionality from the business that are becoming too difficult to answer. Most importantly, they will not want to start again. These are companies that realize that there are parts of their existing data structures or their existing analytics environment that are built to purpose, that are working pretty well. And it's very difficult for them to kind of take on a new project where they have to entirely recreate that from the very beginning. So what we allow them to do is look at their environment, decide what it is that you want to migrate over, and then rebuild the parts that just aren't working. How do we do this? Let me talk a little bit about some of the tools that we use. So James, I'm going to pass you over to in a second. He's going to show you a demonstration of one of them. The BI Blueprint. Now, it's an automated technical documentation deep dive tool. On average, it saves 60% of the effort of doing that manually. BI connector. The BI connector, James is going to show you this in a second. I won't steal his thunder, but the BI connector allows you to use your existing data structures with Looker. It's kind of like an ETL bridging tool. Now, there's two real uses for this. Number one, it's a great way to do a POC of Looker. So it's a low impact way of taking your existing data structure from, for example, Qlik, and then using that directly within Looker, allowing your customers get the look and feel of the new tool. Secondly, it's a great way to get started quickly. So if you're doing a new BI project, you can transfer or migrate all of your users over to Looker, have them using the old data structures, and then underneath all of that, you can be creating all of your new data warehouse or cloud data warehouse structures that you're going to transfer them to eventually. Also, you can probably tell this is a really good way of testing whether or not the data that you have in your new tool is matching what you have in your old tool. Okay, I'm going to pass you over to James now, and he's going to do a quick demonstration. James, over to you.
Hello, my name is James Ball. I'm a BI solutions architect with Inovaco. Today I'm going to be showing you our BI connector tool and do a brief demonstration of how you can leverage that tool to quickly migrate your BI content from a legacy BI platform into Looker. I'm going to go ahead and launch the BI connector here on my Windows PC. And this tool can run on any Windows machine, provided that it has network access to your legacy BI content. The BI connector is a flexible tool that allows you to migrate both BI content and data from one BI platform to a target platform. The possible target platforms include various databases and applications, including Looker. In each migration scenario, we start with a simple two-step process. In step 1, we select the source content, and in step 2, we select the target environment and specify the desired options. We can use this Windows interface to create migration tasks initially, and then we can schedule these tasks to run on a regular basis if needed. In today's scenario, we'll go from Qlik to Looker. I will move a set of Qlik Qvd files into Looker so that I can immediately build my dashboard content in Looker using the model and data that already exists in my Qlik deployment. So again, in step 1, we're going to be selecting our source content, which in this case is Qlik Qvd files. I can select individual files, or I can select a folder of files, and my selections are displayed in the panel below. In the case of a Looker target, we can log into our Looker Cloud tenant by pressing the Login button and supplying our client ID and client secret. Once we've successfully connected to our Looker tenants, we can then choose from or create both a Looker project and a Looker connection to load our content into. Once we've selected or created our Looker project and Looker data connection, we can verify that information. In the case of this Looker data connection, we have a SQL Server database for which I need to enter the password. I can then test that data connection, and I see that it is successfully connected. At this stage, I can optionally set some additional data load options. And on this screen, I can see my selected Qlik files, and I can see the file size, number of columns, number of records, field names, and data types. For each Qlik source, I can alter the target field names or data types if desired, and I can also choose from different data load options. By default, we have truncate and reload. We also have an append data reload option, and we also have an incremental reload option or delta load, which will only insert new or changed records from the source, which is very useful in a high data volume scenario. Once we've selected any optional data load options, we're ready to go ahead and press the Load Data button. At this stage, the BI connector is connecting to Looker using the API and connecting to our selected project and creating the content to match the model that we've selected from Qlik. And it's also specifying that that model connects to the data connection that we selected. At the same time, the BI connector is connecting to that database that's specified in the data connection, and it's creating the tables and the columns and loading the data from the Qlik files. Now, while I'm loading this manually the first time, I do have the option of scheduling this job to run anytime. For example, if I have Qlik Qvds that are updating every day that I want to have reflected in Looker, I could run this job every day to bring the fresh data in. And I now see that that data load job has successfully completed. Next, I can just have a look at my database specified in the connection, which happens to be a SQL Server database. And here I can ensure that my selected Qvd files have been created as tables in the database. I can also check my data types to ensure that they match. Next, I'm ready to log into Looker, and I can now use my model and data that's been migrated from Qlik. First, I'm going to find my project that was created. And here I can see the initial model file that was created for me to reflect each of the views that represent each Qvd. I can see some initial joins that were created to reflect the matching column name of company code in each Qlik Qvd file. Next, I'm going to create an Explorer so that I can visualize my data and recreate content in Looker. And once I have my visualizations matching my Qlik content, I'm ready to add them to a Looker dashboard and immediately reproduce my dashboards in Looker.
Okay, so Eric, Paul, James, thank you very much. Let's answer some questions we have got in the chat if you don't mind. So first one, can Looker connect to other databases different from Bigquery? Eric, your team already answered this question in the chat. However, if you don't mind giving the answer again here for everyone and also answering the follow-up question that people sent in the chat as well. You can enable your microphone now, Eric, and we'll be happy to listen to you. Eric, can you hear me?
Andrea, can we be sure that we haven't muted Eric?
Yeah. Yes, we have. We have. Okay. In the meantime, Paul, while Eric figured out like his audio issue, we have this question here as well for you or for James. It says, we currently use Qlik to do a lot of ETL processing and produce Qvds that are used by our Qlik dashboards. It will take a lot of time and effort to redevelop this ETL logic in a new environment for Looker. Is it possible to continue using Qlik to generate the Qvds and then use these Qvds in Looker?
Short answer is yes, but I'll let James go into more detail.
Yeah, sure. I can answer that as well. So that is where the BI connector can help out as well. So sometimes when you use BI connector, you might be able to just kind of do a one-time migration with it and then be able to access your data directly from Looker, maybe a data warehouse, or maybe you've rebuilt something for Looker. But in many cases, we see a lot of mature Qlik customers have very elaborate ETL processes built into Qlik, producing layers of QVD files. And that's not something that they can very quickly or easily port into another database environment. So what they want to do is they want to get to Looker as quickly as possible and continue to rely on Qlik to produce that ETL output. What the BI connector can do to facilitate that is allow you to continue to produce your Qlik QVDs the way you are. And the BI connector will load all that into Looker's data source. And you can have that automatically refresh as often as needed, whether it's daily or maybe even more often. You can use incremental loads to help with that. And that way, you can just keep Qlik running as an ETL tool. Maybe you move all your users over to Looker to consume the dashboards there, and it's a seamless transition to users. They don't know that you're still using Qlik on the back end. That's something that you can continue to do as long as you want, and migrate in the future if desired. But this way, you don't have to have that bottleneck stopping you from moving to Looker.
Yeah, and one other point there. Realistically, you only actually need one Qlik license after that point. All you're doing is running QVDs. You really just need one administrator, maybe a backup, but it does give you the ability to use Qlik as your backend source, and then move to something a little bit more modern, like Looker, for your users. Okay, so we got Eric back on. He is unmuted. Andrea, do you want to repeat the question again for Eric, and we'll.
Absolutely. Before that, Paul, I don't know if we want to answer this follow-up question. Somebody asks here in the chat. So the BI connector is creating the Looker semantic layer. Is that correct? Just to wrap up that question.
Yes. Yeah. So it does create your initial Looker semantic layer or LookML. You can then once you have that foundation that's built, you can then customize it, but it kind of gets you started, and and saves a lot of time initially setting up the basics and the basic relationship between your tables.
Okay, great. Thank you, James. So Eric, are you back on now?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Okay, we can. So we have actually 2 or 3 questions for you. Let me read those questions again. The first one, can Looker connect to other databases different from Bigquery? You already answered that question, but there was like a follow-up question. So it will be nice if you could elaborate on that. And right after that, people ask, can I use Looker for predictive analytics? And can I set up alerts for metrics I want to monitor? So please let us know, Eric.
For sure. So the short answer to the question is yes. Looker connects to 60 or more different dialects of SQL, and that's everything from things like Spark SQL and Hive and the Hadoop family, to BigQuery, Bigtable, Snowflake, Redshift, etc., and even to some of the more common legacy databases like DB2 or Oracle or MySQL. So the follow-up was, is it necessary to have good performance to have one of these massive parallel processing databases like BigQuery? And the answer is a bit more complicated. So yes, sure, those databases are super powerful, right? And they're going to speed up performance considerably, but it's not 100% necessary, right? Looker does have some features that allow you to create some aggregates, to create and pre-cache queries as well. We don't have an in-memory engine, but there is a caching layer. So there are strategies that you can use if you don't have an extremely performant database in order to help out with that. It's not the primary problem that Looker solves for, so we're not going to be able to fix a database that is struggling to get through trillions of rows, right? But there are strategies that we can use within Looker to help assist with that. And then I see another question here. Can I use Looker for predictive analytics? And the answer is that Looker is a great part of a complete predictive program. Looker does provide for some forecasting functions within its visualizations directly. There's a beta feature that we just launched where you can do some time series forecasting in one of your visualizations. But generally what we see with Looker is that it is used as part of a best of breed tool set. So Looker provides the data platform and the semantic layer, but your data scientists or the folks that are creating your machine learning models work in the tools they're most comfortable with, right? For a lot of data scientists, that's going to be Python or R. So they'll go out, they'll write their machine learning models or their prediction models, and Looker will provide them with the data so they don't have to do all of that data prep, the data cleansing, all of the sort of busy work that goes into creating a good predictive model. So a couple of things there, right? So we can do a bit of time series forecasting, and Looker is a great tool to use to enable your data scientists within a larger predictive workflow. As I see one that says, do we have to move to GCP to get the most out of Looker? And the answer to that is no, not directly. Looker and Google are committed to being multi-cloud. So you bring the cloud provider of your choice or even multiple clouds to the table, and Looker will sit on top of that data and help you get the most out of it, regardless of where it sits, regardless of whether it's in the cloud or on-prem. Looker will still help you make the most of that data.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. James, there are 2 more questions here in the chat. You may be able to help with those. One of them is about the associative in-memory technology that Qlik has. And the other one actually could be for Eric as well. Does Looker need another component to create the ETL?
That's a great question. So Looker is not an ETL tool, and like I said, is positioned well for a best-of-breed solution. So typically what we'll see is that there is some sort of data pipeline before Looker that helps to consolidate the data, right? So whether that's one of these newer ETL pipeline tools like Fivetran or Stitch, or whether it's a traditional ETL workflow like Informatica or Google's Dataflow or Dataprop, right? Looker is not going to substitute for those. Within Looker, we can do a bit of transformation. We use derived tables, or essentially a materialized view within Looker to reshape data, right? So I can stitch data together, I can re-aggregate it, I can reshape it in Looker to some extent, but it's not a substitute for an ETL tool. Okay,
great. One more question here, Eric. If I create a Looker dashboard and I email it to a friend, when they access the dashboard, how do they gain access to my company SQL server, Looker data source, even if user credentials are embedded?
Okay, this is a bit of a complicated question. So let me see if I understand it correctly. So you've got a Looker dashboard, and you want to send that out to a friend. That friend, I'm assuming, doesn't have a Looker logon or an account, right? And so the question is, how do I share information outside of my Looker account set with somebody on the outside? And it's a great question. What we allow you to do is send a static version of that dashboard or that look to someone outside the organization. That would be in the form of either an image, a CSV file with the data from each tile, or a PNG. If the user does have a Looker account, that image can contain a link so that they can go back into Looker and then actually do some further exploration and actually interact with that dashboard. Does that answer the question?
Let's see. Yes, it does. Perfect. Okay, so I think those are all the questions for this session. Thank you very
Actually,
much.
Andrea, there's one from Brent. Let me just take that one. I didn't think anyone answered it. Brent, just a question about for Qlik, the associative in-memory technology to improve analysis performance. It's a great question. Goes back to something I was talking about a little bit earlier on. Qlik is kind of designed for a database structure that would have been more common a couple of years ago. So the idea would be is that you're loading your data at night. Qlik then takes that data, loads it into its in-memory engine, and then everything is kind of cached, and it's very quick and to kind of pull your analytics together after that. A more modern structure is something like Bigquery or Snowflake or maybe Synapse, and it doesn't really fit the same structure. So it makes more sense to actually access, like you're doing more with your database technology these days than you used to be a couple of years ago. So like I say, a couple of years ago, that would have been a really good feature of Qlik. Now you're really just adding another piece of the puzzle to slow things down. And that's what we're finding with our clients. Anyone who's using Synapse or Snowflake, Qlik is actually going to slow you down rather than speed you up. Sorry, Andrea, back to you.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Paul. So I think that's all for today. I just wanted to thank everyone, presenters and attendants, for their participation. I'm going to send a message here in the chat. If anybody has any additional questions or want to know a little bit more about any of the topics that we touched on today, please feel free to get in touch with us, and our team, Looker and Movie Analytics, will get back to you as soon as possible. Back to you, Paul, if you want to wrap this up.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll be in touch with some more information about Looker. And like Andrea said, if you have any questions, please get in touch. We're super happy to hear from you. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and we hope to hear from you soon. Take care, guys. Thank you very much again, Google team.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you.